Good evening, viewers. You're welcome to National Talk on ECWA TV Africa, where we shall be analyzing and discussing some of the events that happened within the week. I am Sele Elisha Dashum, and first the news headlines. Nigerian debt hit 39.6 trillion in 11 months. Threat to communities in 2023 election. Nigeria report 3,604 deaths, 111,062 cases of cholera in 2021, says NCDC. Budget expose fraud in 2022 budget. Electoral Act amendment. Senate reps differ on consensus option. Fuel subsidy removal to come in June. Reps other investigation into 178,459 firearms ammunition missing from the police armory. Now the news in full. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, in her presentation of the 2022 approved budget, disclosed that the government borrowed 6.7 trillion naira between January and November 2021. In March 2021, the Debt Management Office had disclosed that the country's total public debt stock was 32.9 trillion naira as of December 2020. An additional 6.7 trillion naira loan means the total public debt stock will be about 39.6 trillion as of November 2021. The minister defended government borrowing and the country's debt level, insisting the country has a revenue challenge and not a debt problem, adding that the debt level was still within sustainable limits. Having witnessed to economic recession, we have had to spend our way out of recession, which contributed significantly to the growth in the public debt. It is unlikely that our recovery from each of the two recessions would have been as fast without the sustained government expenditure funded partly by debt. However, economic experts, including the former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria and the former presidential candidate Kingsley Moghalu, has countered the minister. He had said, there are many ways through which we can improve Nigerian domestic revenue situation without selling the future of our country. As to the argument that Nigeria does not have a debt problem, but a revenue problem, that is mere dishonesty. If you're spending 90 kobo of every 1 naira, you earn repaying debt, you are in debt. The World Bank has recently said Nigerian debt was vulnerable and costly, adding that the country's debt was at risk of becoming unsustainable in the event of macro-fiscal stop. Nigeria has been reported to have 3,604 deaths and 111,062 cases of cholera in 2021. The Nigerian Center for the Disease Control, NCDC, had said. The center announced this in a situation report of the 52nd Epidemiology and the last report for 2021. It explained that within 33 states and the Federal Capital Territory was taken by cholera. Anambra, Edo, and Imo State did not report suspended cases during the period. The states affected are Abia, Adamawa, Akwa Ibom, Bauchi, Bayelsa, Benue, Borno, Cross River, Delta, Ebonyi, Ekiti, Enugu, the FCT, Gombe, Jigawa, Kaduna, Kano, Katsina, and Kebbi. Others are Kogi, Kwara, Lagos, Nasarawa, Niger, Ogun, Ondo, Osun, Oyo, Plateau, Sokoto, Taraba, Yobe, Rivers, and Zamfara. The center said Nigerians within the ages of 5 to 14 were the most affected since the beginning of the year. Of all suspended cases, 50% were males and 50% are females. The center noted that the difficulty in accessing some communities due to security concerns, open defecation in affected communities, lack of potable drinking water in some rural areas, and urban slums were some of the challenges it encountered. Others, it says, are inadequate vaccines to cover all local government areas, wards, and settlements with cholera outbreaks. inadequate health facility infrastructure, and cholera communities for management of patients. Inadequate trained personnel in states of cases management, as well as poor and inconsistent reporting from states. The NCDC advised Nigerians to take hygiene seriously, that hand hygiene is one of the most effective ways to reduce the spread of infectious diseases like Lassa fever, COVID-19, and cholera. Bandits have raided 9 Zamfara communities operating in Kado Forest in Bugayum local government area of the state, asking them to pay their levies or face deadly attacks. This is coming a few weeks after bandits massacred at least 200 people in the Abuka and Aka local government area. In that carnage, the bandits burned down 5 villages, killed many residents, and mutilated their bodies. The bandit also wrote in Hausa language and addressed to the different communities. Each of the letters had the name of the community on the top and the money it is expected to pay. There are also a mobile number written on the letters. On how they authenticated the letters, the source said they were brought to the district head by released captives after the payment of ransom by relatives of the captives. They asked them to go with the 9 different letters and present them to Bunu Zugu, who was also instructed to forward it to the remaining heads. He said that the residents of the affected community have started gathering the money to avoid attacks. The phone number of Zamfara Police Command spokesperson Mohammed Shehu could not be reached on Monday as an SMS sent to him was not responded to. In the same line, the governor of Niger State, Abubakar Sani Bello, has said that his state recorded 50 attacks between January 1st and 17, 2022. He, however, said that he is confident that they will recover improvements in security. He added there is still a lot of work to be done, sharing boundaries with Kaduna, Zamfara, and Kebbi states, and that the bandits have the habit of hiding between the forests, moving from Zamfara to Kebbi and Kebbi to Niger. They take advantage of the cattle routes, which they already know. They move on motorcycles, and most of the areas and communities they attack have no access routes. Budget, a former civil tech organization leading the advocacy for transparency and accountability in Nigeria's public finance, called on the citizen, CSO, private sectors, and the international community to urgently prevail on the National Assembly and Presidency to urgently amend and eliminate the loopholes in the federal government 2022 approved budget. According to Gabriel Okidi, the budget country's director, the loopholes for fraud in the 2022 federal government budget is a crime against the 86 million Nigerians living below the poverty line, an injustice to hard-working taxpayers, and an open mockery of countries and leading institutions that intend to borrow Nigeria 6.29 trillion naira in the 2022. The group said it is putting the finishing touches to a thorough analysis of the approved federal government 2022 budget, which will make it public to all stakeholders. According to the group, the Nigerian government agency have billions of naira reportedly earmarked as security votes, a fraud usually given to state government by the government to equip the security arms. Our analysis of the 2021 budget reveals over 316 duplicated capital projects, totally 39.5 billion naira, among other loopholes of corruption. Budget said in the report, Budget said it also found 0 audit records of the 10.02 trillion naira received by the security sector between 2015 and 2021. Following the amendment of the Electoral Bill 2021, which was rejected by the President Muhammadu Buhari late last year, which he said that the mandatory use of direct primaries for all political parties in the country would be too expensive to execute, saying that it would put a financial burden on Nigeria's slim resources. He also expressed fear that the proposed mandatory use of direct primaries will amount to the violation of citizens' rights, will be violated and lead to marginalization for smaller political parties. The House of Representatives Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila and Ahmed Lawan on Tuesday said the National Assembly will work on the proposed legislation and send it to Buhari. While the House gave options of parties adopting direct or indirect primaries, the Senate include direct and indirect primary as well as the consensus mode as suggested by the President during his interview. The disagreement between both houses is expected to delay the passage of the bill. Meanwhile, a coalition of civil society organizations working toward the perfection of the electoral process in Nigeria on Wednesday rejected the introduction of consensus by the Senate as a mode of nomination for candidates in the Electoral Act Bill 2021. They said the mode is unfamiliar to the original Electoral Bill 2021 and gave the House till the 21st of January today to make amendments. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, on the other hand, on Tuesday said it will not release an election timetable until the Electoral Act amendment has been passed. The National Economic Council, NEC, yesterday calmed fears of Nigerians over the possible removal of fuel subsidy early in 2022, saying the policy will remain for now. It, however, did not rule out the possibility of the subsidy being removed before the end of this year. Following that, the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, has insisted that workers and masses will not accept any further increase in the pump price of fuel in the name of subsidy removal. NLC on Wednesday directed all its state organs to intensify mobilization for next Thursday nationwide protest against the federal government proposed increase in the pump price of fuel. The NLC has said began mobilization for a nationwide protest and to commence strike in February if nothing is done about the fuel hike. NLC said its members should be ready to commence a total strike that will shut down the economy from the February 1st. It equally warned that the strike may come earlier should government go ahead with the announcement of the increase before February. Meanwhile, the Minister of Information and Culture, Leah Mohammed, is to initiate a fact-finding process to determine the state of things on the removal of petroleum subsidy, following the announcement on Tuesday by the Senate President Ahmed Lawan that President Buhari has not told anyone to remove it. The minister, who briefed correspondents after a meeting of the Federal Executive Council, presided over by the Vice President Yemi Osibanjo at the presidential villa on Wednesday, has been asked to provide clarity on the niche issue since the 2022 budget has no subsidy provision beyond June 2022. It will be recalled that the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, had announced last October that the federal government made provision for petroleum subsidy only for the first 6 months of 2022 as the government looked toward a complete deregulation of the sector. The Senate President declared that Buhari had not directed anyone in his administration to implement the removal of petroleum subsidy, but he also agreed that the subsidy was a huge burden, noting that a solution needed to be found to it. The House of Representatives has instructed ACOR committee to arm and investigate the alleged 178,459 arms reported to be missing by the Auditor General of the Federation, Theophilus. According to the 2019 audit report, the arms, which include AK-47 rifles and other assorted rifles and pistols from different formations nationwide, could not be accounted for by the Nigerian police. The House resolved to check the missing arms following a motion moved by the Deputy Minority Leader Toby Okechukwu on Thursday during the plenary. Leading the debate, Mr. Okechukwu lamented the poor record keeping of the police on arms and ammunition. He said the missing arms could be connected with the spike in insecurity across the country. Quoting from the audit report, Mr. Okechukwu said the value of the lost firearms could not be ascertained because no document relating to their cost of acquisition was presented for examination. Speaking in support of the motion, the Deputy Speaker, Idris Wasi, said the investigation will reveal a lot. He, however, argued that there is still no need to set up an ad hoc committee to investigate the matter. Rather, an existing committee investigating arms should be charged with the inquiry. Consequently, the committee investigating arms procurement chaired by Abubakar Fulata has charged with the investigation. In addition, the Inspector General of Police, Usman Al-Khali, was mandated to take urgent action to apprehend those responsible for the duplication of the armory of the force. And that's all from the news desk. When we go for a short break, when we come back, we shall be analyzing some of these events that have happened within the country, and our phone lines will be open. Stay glued.
Hi, I am Lengs. I have collected my PVC. I'm ready to vote. Have you collected yours? If you haven't, please kindly do yourself a favor. Walk to the nearest collection center and collect your PVC. Your vote is your right. Your PVC is the key to unlock the brighter future and the Nigeria that you and I deserve, the Nigeria that we need. So go get yours now.
Welcome back. You're still on to National Talk on ECWA TV Africa. And looking at the events that have happened in the country, we have quite a lot on our dish. But before I move on, I have a guest with me. He's a friend of the family, a friend of the house, Mr. Victor Kocheli. He is he's an author, a conference speaker, and also an on-air personnel. You're welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me.
Happy to have you. And Happy New Year.
And Happy New Year.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, sir, looking at the issues,
yes,
or rather the events that have befallen the nation, or will I say, looking at all the stories that we had within the week, you agree with me that quite a lot have happened?
Certainly.
And so I would like us to start with the, I think it's a story that have been making the headlines on the newspaper, the Electoral Amendment Bill. It will be recalled that the House, that's the Senate, gave the President that they needed him to sign the Electoral Act Bill. And he rejected it with reasons that he cannot just agree for the direct primaries, looking at the fact that it's going to be expensive, insecurity, and other things. Now, with we're already having the civil society disagreeing to that fact, that because they feel that if we're having the consensus, it's against the Electoral Act 2021. Now, sir, looking at this, I don't know, would you say it's okay for us to just go ahead with the way things are, or did you think that possibly because we are having INEC saying that they are not going to bring out the timetable until we have the president have signed the electoral bill?
Well, first of all, I'm quite sad, but this is revealing again. I'm not too surprised that we are behaving the way we're behaving as a country. This is one country that every time the people have the opportunity to take on the power and become active participants in the decision and destiny in their own destiny, people in leadership will always truncate that. People in leadership will always thwart that opportunity. The question of direct primaries or indirect primaries is a question of whether the people will have the power to be able to choose who their leaders are. We talk about other countries that are developed and we're excited about what they have been able to do. Do you know that in the United States, for instance, for you to run for the House of Assembly, you cannot even go to your own party to get your form first of all. You need to go to your community and get people to sign. that they are interested, they are people, and you need a certain number of people before you can even talk about getting back to your party and then getting your nomination forms and all that being put together. Now, every time you have the opportunity to hand over this privilege, this right rather, to the people, you truncate it. What was about the direct primaries? It was a situation that's asking that, let's test your popularity. It has nothing to do with the godfatherism on the other side or the money bags on this other side. It's just simply saying, if the people want you, let them line up and prove it. Then the president, in a discussion, in a sitting with the journalists, gave a suggestion and somebody jumped at it. What's the meaning of a consensus candidate? Again, taking the power away from the people. Exactly. Constitutionally, you do not have that provision. So why would a suggestion by a sitting president becomes a policy or constitutional provision for you to debate on, to even include in an electoral bill? It again tells us that we are not bothered about the welfare of the people. And that is why the country is where it is at the moment. That every time we have the opportunity to give the power back to the people, we do everything to take it back to ourselves. Now, those money bags who have controlled the politics of this country by the means of hunger and dangling the carrots when they need us to move out, are the people who are questioning, who are beginning to think that they are going to lose their power, because the people are just going to line up and this is the person they want, this is the person they're going to give it to. But here you are asking us to, first of all, still do the secret thing we do by taking our resources, by making sure that people play the politics of Maggi and sugar and salt and wrappers, and then because it means that it's only the money bags that can actually get whatever it is that they want. So the consensus candidate, again, if you do the analysis, how do you arrive at the consensus? Somebody has to talk to somebody, and that gives you what we call the godfatherism factor again coming into it. Because no matter who you are, there are people that once they stand to talk, you would want to listen to them. But why wouldn't we give the common man on the street to determine who he wants? Because true politics, and after the campaigns and the politicking, it's called governance. And for those who have been able to do well, always have antecedents before they get into power. You do not become the president of a country like the United States without either being a senator or a governor or somebody who has had some scrutiny through the work in the public sector, especially in the act of governance. So here we are with people coming in from nowhere. As soon as my friend will say, once they buy 1 or 2 Jeeps, SUVs, and they have stolen money somewhere, they just appear and then remind us that we must accept them as they are. And I think this is very, very unfortunate.
Well, because, when I was actually, when I went through the entire listening to the president and the fact that he was asked that he came in through the direct primaries. Yeah. So why is he against direct primaries and imposing the fact that he wants to be a democratic president? Of course he is. That they needed to list out other things, indirect and direct primary. Well, just as you said, it still boils down to what the people want and what they feel is okay. I think INEC has brought out the issue was let's have the electoral voting. Yeah. Now this still takes us to the fact that if we're being banned on the consensus, because we have to looking at those who are fiscally challenged and all that. Where do they fall in place like this?
Now, when you talk about the consensus or the direct and indirect, is the argument has always been that it's a party affair. So once it's in a party affair, you cannot really that you're taking the power away from the parties. But again, the parties do not become parties without people. The parties do not become of essence if they do not work for the people.
So the people make the party,
certainly. So if you cannot respect the views of what is wrong about organizing the party and getting the people to do it? it's again showing us that when you look at even the parties, what ideologies are they standing out for? You say the Republicans in the United States or the Democrats in the United States, you on very, very serious issues, you know where they stand. You go to the Labour Party or the Conservatives in England, or I mean in Britain, you know exactly where they stand. You go into the Conservatives in Germany or the left or the right, you know exactly. What exactly do the PDP or the APC or the YYP or what the other 90 parties are talking about? What exactly are they talking about? Now, because there is no party structure that is of the essence that helps in governance, in creating a better governance, this is why it's difficult for them to now accept that this is the way to go. You can't take the power away from the people in choosing their leaders and still say it's democracy. It's the heart of democracy is the person. It's like the healthcare. At the heart of the healthcare is the patient. Now, the patient in democracy is the person. And you are saying that no, the person cannot take the decision as to who he wants to lead him. Now, Nigeria, from the news item, the 89 million people who live on less than $2 or thereabout, it's 40%. If you do that carefully, we're already hitting to 103 million people.
Exactly.
Now, these people would want to choose who is going to lead them. Hunger is not a good advisor. So how do I decide when I'm hungry? And you know that the money bag on this other side, the person with the deep pockets, is trying to manipulate the essence of what I can do. The little power, the last standing power I have, is exactly what he wants to take away.
I know exactly. You know, when you're talking about democracy and the fact that we have the powers, because I believe that we elect them into office.
Yes.
And that's why
there's still a debate to that whether there was a selection or there was an election, whether it was a rigged election, but whichever way, the provision for the election didn't say it has to be 100%. So they always rely on the fact that it was fair and credible. It was fair, and so people go in there. But if it is about the people, then you shouldn't be scared. If it's the people you want to work for, then you shouldn't be scared. We've seen people go in for elections in other countries, and because someone felt that going back to redo the election is going to cost the people much more money, he just said the person who felt that he had won, let him go. No problem. He was going to take it easy. Why? Because if it's about the people, let's not suffer them. And it didn't take 3 months for this other guy who insisted to cause so much problem that he had to be recalled. If it is about the people, then we shouldn't be talking about this. And INEC is taking advantage of it already, reminding us there wouldn't be a timetable if we do not settle on this issue. Why did we have to wait until 2022?
You know, it has been a question on my mind. Why do we have to wait till it's the eve of election? We have just less than 400 days
to an election.
Yes.
And then you are putting us under this kind of situation because you do not care. I've said this, they know what they are doing. Some other people have challenged me and said, are you sure they know? I said, they do know, they just don't care. They don't care that people, it's terrible that people are being killed, people are taken for granted. You can't guarantee diseases that ordinarily would have been defeated. Now they are coming back and eating people. And yet you are telling us to choose who to lead us. Cannot be guaranteed.
You know, this still leads us to another, event that took place, which is the hike of fuel.
Yes.
Now, we know that once this fuel goes up, it's going to affect the common man because food commodity is going to be very expensive. Transportation is going to be very expensive. I mean, this is going to make the life of common citizens miserable. Now, this now calls back to what is the government doing about the first of? Because we're already saying that after June, that is all we have.
Again, they know what they're doing. Let me explain this. It's quite unfortunate that we're still at this level. And I like what Kingsley Mogale was talking about and answering the minister. And she was saying, no, that on one angle, our problem is the revenue side, not the debt side. It's indicting. It's quite unfortunate that she could comfortably talk about that. It means that she is aware that we have leakages and that she can't do anything about it. I thought she was going to resign and say that, okay, fine, we know there are leakages and I can't do anything about it, so I'm going to go. Because if the problem of this country is the revenue side that you know, and we can't get the revenue, but you are increasing our debt on this side so that you leave the problem to whoever is coming, then you don't deserve to be in power, in government. However, let's even look at why we are where we are. The country called Nigeria has these idea that we have the largest deposits of oil in West Africa. And when you look at the other countries around us, the money that they pay for oil coming in from Nigeria is about 450 naira in those countries. Yeah, exactly. In fact, a friend of mine from Lagos who was commenting on one of the news channels said to me, Victor, if you take the whole of the Nigerian army and put them in our borders, the money is too sweet for nobody to try not to smuggle these things out. So the argument is, why don't we equalize it? So 400 here, 400 on the other side makes it uninteresting at the detriment of who? That every time you cannot handle your own side of the argument, every time you cannot handle your own side of the bargain, every time you fail, we should pay for it. It's quite pathetic. There are countries that are talking about transformation. We are talking about the congestion. We're talking about whether we can, the behavior of a person, we should nourish, we should pamper the person so that we can keep suffering. It's quite unfortunate. The subsidy question that we're talking about, and the whole world is talking about it, till this moment that we're talking, the subsidy in the United States, and the subsidy is in agriculture. I understand that. But everybody looks at what it is best for.
The country.
You look at that. Look at the transportation system. If you had why are we transporting people in our rails, not food? Why are we transporting people? Now, with the Boko Haram thing, it's becoming more fashionable to go into the rails to save the people, and they land in a country that's all hungry. If you understand that you want to hike the price of fuel, the pump price of fuel, why don't you also give us the benefit of going to the market and buy our food at the cheapest rate? And the only way you could do that is to make sure that the transportation of this food items is a lot easier from the north to the south, from the south to the east. And I was interested in what was going to happen in the railways, and I said, why don't we invest in transporting our agricultural products? That we don't have to put them on the roads, that our palm oil shouldn't fall on the road, that our rice shouldn't fall on the roads, and they're all getting stolen. The question is, use the rails and equalize the prices. And once you do that, people can decide, okay, maybe there's some level of honesty in the whole game. Exactly. We have moved from 66 naira to 162 or 268, and we're still in debt. Prove to us that the balance, the difference of what you had gotten in the past, you've used it in something. The workers are saying salaries are not consistent. The contractors are telling us their funds are not coming in. The debt profile is for is 90% of your revenue.
Exactly.
So you're living on just 10%. And somebody is saying, no, that is still good. I don't understand that economics.
That's why I actually love the response.
Yes, I don't understand that. Because for you to be financially free, the simple arithmetic is that you need to have twice
of what
you live on.
Exactly.
Now, what we're saying is that we have 90% of what we cannot control, even if we generate 100% of it. So for every 100 naira you put in there, 90 naira. Yes, goes into solving the problems of other people. And it is a recurrent, it's attached to interest. So every time this country has got the opportunity to make things right, every time the leaders of this country want to have the opportunity to do what is right, their failure is now translated to our pain. And they do it with a lot of recklessness.
And it actually looked like, will I say, a source of distraction to distract, because it's quite worrisome, because it's coming just when we're about to start the election. So it's sort of a way of distracting, you know, Nigerians for knowing exactly what they want. Right now, I'll be opening the phone line so you can call in, send in your contribution, and looking at exactly the events that have been happening in the nation, the fuel subsidy, the electoral bid, and all that. The numbers will be on your phone, your screen. Follow us on social media, that's Facebook and YouTube, and you can also send your contribution. We'll try to read them one on one. Yes, sir, we're still looking at the fuel subsidy.
So and Mogelu was talking about, Kingsley Mogelu was talking about what are the other ways, that there are other ways that we could do that and solve our problem. This country at the moment, NNPC cannot tell you that you take 100 million barrels a day. It's not possible. That's not what we consume. So where do the others go? So that's the question of taking them out. But I'm interested in
sorry to ask the question. We have a call from Taraba. Hello, good evening. Good. Hello, are you there? Good evening.
Okay.
Hello? Okay, I think I lost that call.
So what I think, and again, we all know, is that until you can control what you are producing, you're not going to get anywhere. Our refineries are not working. But everybody who works in the refinery is earning money.
So why don't we now direct the money we borrow to make sure we fix the refineries?
That is the point.
Domesticate it here.
Again, who is benefiting from the subsidy?
Exactly.
Yes, who is benefiting from the subsidy? They are the big guns who want to also get into politics and control us by how much they have, because we do not have. And that is quite unfortunate. I thought leadership is about empowering people, giving them more control over their lives.
Hello, good evening. Hello? Okay, please, we appreciate if you call us back again.
Okay. So it's important that if we had done our local production and getting our consumption level from the local refineries in here, we would have knocked out 90% of our cost, and would have been selling petrol at the right price to every other state that we have. But that's not what we're doing. We've got Nigerians, and again, let's be honest to ourselves. And when we talk about leaders, we're not even talking about only the Buhari-led administration. Exactly. But we're saying that leaders in this country have failed us. You know, reason? Because some of the refineries are owned by Nigerians outside of this country. When it is personal refineries, they work at optimum capacity. When it is government, it does not just work. So it's a deliberate attempt to keep the masses of this country at a level that they can't do anything. While other countries, you take a tax from somebody of, let's say, $1,000 in a year. By January, they are paying you about $2,000. Because they have used your money and have made some gains, and they are paying it into their accounts. That's what happens.
And that's why we had budget investigated into the fraud.
And I'm happy with what budget is doing, because I had the opportunity to look at the last 2 years' budget, and I looked at some of the projects. Honestly, if you take that document and you open it, it's going to make your head go round.
Because they said there has been no audit from 2015
Not only that, not audit, but it's deliberately designed to confuse you. It's a document that it takes. I am so happy with what budget is doing, taking a lot of his own time to look at those issues. Over 300 and something trillion naira that we're talking about. Billion naira that we're talking about. That has, literally, it's just going to be siphoned. I have asked people, look at the budget of this country. Why is it that the budget that has to do with the welfare of people in government gets 100% releases, and the thing that has to do with the masses never gets 40% releases? There's something wrong with us. And again, before we even attack these people, I am concerned about our attitude as individuals, that we're doing nothing to change that narration. We're doing nothing at all to take the responsibility, because these leaders come from us. They
So
are
we
part of
forward
us.
them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we are not asking the right questions. I have said over and over, intelligence is not your ability to answer questions. It's to ask the right questions. And I was in a meeting where ICPC was talking about constituency allowance and displaying how wasteful the monies have been. Even what do you call a dialysis machine bought for a constituency, it's left to to deteriorate somewhere else. And I asked this question in the meeting: what did we ask these members to go and do that they are not doing, that we're even bothered? How many members of House of Assembly, House of Representatives, or the Senate went with our document? How many of them? How many of them in our different communities, in our town hall, gave them a document to show that these are the things that are bothering us, and we're going to measure you by them? How many?
The problem is, even when we give it to them, can we call them back and say, you're not acting accordingly?
No, because right now they are taking phone calls. Is the election time?
Exactly.
They are taking phone calls. They are sending, returning text messages. They are attending occasions, okay, and using the monies that were supposed to be used for something else.
Because they need the masses
They need the masses now for another 4 years. So it's like a drug. Okay, give them the tonic, and then we're going to get there and then hit at them again. So there's always a time that they will come back. But how do you measure them? Because what you don't know, you can measure, and what you cannot measure, you can achieve. So we would have been able to say, okay, as communities, these are the things that are bothering us. So that by the time they return, we will look at this documents and say, these are the things we told you to go and do. Did you do them? There's no lie, there's no manipulation to it. If it's a culvert, if it's there, it's there. If it's not there, it's not there. And there are people who are even arguing with people in government that the road had been constructed. It's not in heaven. It's not in hell. It's not under the sea. It's right here. And we can actually go and see it. But of course, we are not also bothered about it. And as a people, we have our own issues. But of course, leaders are called to a higher level, and that's why we will always talk about them. That once you decide to be a leader, you take the responsibility to not only live right, but to deliver on what you have said. Today, the institutions are failing. Look at what is happening with our security. Look at what is happening with the central bank. Look at what's happening with the rice issue, the anchor borrowers, the display of the rice that we have seen. And I was hoping that this was going to be good news, only that the rice is still between 29 and 32,000. When the pyramid was not there, we had the rice at 8,000. So if we have increase in production, it should have also shown in the prices that we're getting. Another factor they say is the question of the farmers, the local production, the cost of local production. But remember, because of the structure of the anchor borrower system, the rice itself is not supposed to be sold by the farmer. It's supposed to be sold to the off-takers at the central bank, and they take it. But I thought this was a way of making the farmers go home. I totally agree they should go home with some good money because of what they are putting in. What most people do not know, and in a state like Plateau State in Nigeria, central Nigeria, you discover that the analysis shows that 80%, 82% rather, of what the farmer works on is actually taken by the middleman, 82% of the value. So if the central bank is saying that we're taking this amount of money, I totally agree. And we're taking this bags of rice, I totally agree. But how then does it get to me, who's on the street? How much do I get to pay for it? If that is what, because the essence of growth is to crash price, is to make life a lot easier for your people. So if it's not, then there's something hugely wrong with what we are doing. But as I've said, the issue with fuel, the confusion is until our refineries are working, until you control what you sell, you cannot grow your economy. Because the crude oil, the benchmark, the decision of how much to sell crude oil is not in our hands. The quantity to take to the market is not in our hands. The person who is buying is not in our hands.
Okay, sorry, so I have to cut you short. Hello, live from Taraba State. Good evening. Okay, from Bayelsa State. Sorry. Good evening. Okay, please go ahead, sir. Okay,
so you need to understand that once you don't have that control, you can't grow your economy. Why is the United States bothered about what China is bringing in, even if it's cheap? Because it wants to control its economy. It wants to take charge of what is happening. So they are charging and making sure that people have access, including the work of NGOs. When you have international organizations or supported by their governments coming to your country, I can guarantee you 60% of that money still goes back to the people, to those taxpayers. Do you know why? And it's not their fault. That's how it should be anyways. I mean, it's taxpayers' money, for instance, from Netherlands or Norway, and they bring in their people to come and do part of the job. And if they come in here, they are not paid as the Nigerian structure. They are paid as the Norwegian structure or the Netherlands structure. So 90%, I mean 60% of that goes back. Every economy that grows, you control what you can give out. So it's important that we get that right. Our refineries have no business not working. If they don't work, you cannot control what is going to be happening in that industry.
You know, it's quite a sad one that this is how we do. I think it's high time the government look into how we can fix our refinery. And I think we have fixed our focus so much into oil to be our only source of revenue in this country, and that's why we are actually suffering to this point.
It's sad. I think we are not learning. Our learning curve is very poor in this country. We're not giving a lot of. When we got you talked about we experienced 2 recessions. The very last recession that we experienced. How did we come out of it? It wasn't crude oil. It was agriculture and ICT that got us out of it. And I thought we were going to invest in that. The solid minerals that it's taken from Zamfara, it's taken from Nasarawa State, it's taken from Plateau State, it's taken from Oyo, the coal in Enugu, and all that being put together. How much do they contribute to this country? Now, everybody who takes this crude becomes a rich man. The people still remain poor. So it's a country, it's a fractured country that we are not bothered about our welfare. And this insecurity issue is birthed from it.
You know, that actually leads me to another, event that happened. The missing rifles from the police custody. It's quite worrisome because looking at the fact that this report is coming from 2019. We've not audited 2020. We have 2021. We're in 2022. It's quite worrisome,
Let me say this. For those who don't understand the small arms regime that goes in the world, every year about 8 million small arms are produced every year, but 2 million gets missing globally. This is not just happening to Nigeria, but I say that a country that wants to take charge of its own people and the livelihood of its own people cannot sleep when it comes to data and knowing, how much of whatever it is I have that is still available. In our 21st century and in the global economy like the world at the moment, data is your new money. But this is so shocking that people do not know. If you remember the libraries that we used to go and borrow, you know who borrowed the last time, who took anything. We're talking about guns and bullets, and the bullets, when they go out of the guns, they don't know anybody. They can just kill you straight. Yet people are saying over 176,000 missing. Not only that, the type we're talking about is AK-47. Do you know how much an AK-47 costs? Well, we're talking about over 500,000 naira. And people are saying, and some of them are AK-47 because people don't really care. But who took it? Who took it? He's got something that's quite important to him for him to take it. And that's exactly what is happening. And we're wondering why we have all sorts of guns going around and killing people in their homes and people in their communities. I remember saying that every time a country doesn't take care of its security, it can never be left to a vacuum. You always have warlords, and that's exactly what's happening. Because in Niger State, the governor that was talking in Niger State has 200 people who were killed.
50 attacks from 1st to the 17th of January.
200 people killed. We see other countries that you shoot one person and miss. We're not saying that you shot the person and killed him. You shoot and miss, and it was intended to kill him. They look for you and smoke you out. But here, 200 lives, 200 people with faces, with families, with dreams, with ideas, and literally brought to nothing. And we are sleeping well.
And it was sad because when I was listening to the governor of Zamfara, when he went to the Aso Villa, and he said it looks like he knows the way Zamfara is, and it looks like insecurity more like we don't have a way out of it now. And it gives you the question, are we saying that we do not know who these people are? And if we know, are we afraid? We know where they are living. We know, okay, who are the people sponsoring them? It's a question that Nigerians are asking.
I've said over that leadership, everything rises and falls on leadership. If you find an organization working well, look at the leadership. If you find a country looking well, look at the leadership. The Prime Minister of England, Boris, just had a party. Just a party. Nobody was killed. There was wine, there was dancing and all that. Nobody was killed. Everybody went home, maybe tipsy, and they went and slept off. But nobody died. Nobody at all. Nobody even talked about headache. Now he has to explain to the country that while we were supposed to keep our distance, you were partying. That's how serious. Let me put it in perspective. He is not being questioned at the moment to resign because of any policy in terms of economy, in terms of the security, in terms of people being killed on the streets. He is being asked of a situation that simply said, we agreed that everybody should keep a distance. And he's now denying that, okay, no, nobody told you. If from your normal sense of direction, would you have done it? But my interest here is, how did they become a people who are bothered about that? And then we are a people who 200 people have been killed and nothing happens. How do they become a people who are concerned about face masks and stop partying? They did not tell us how much was spent in the party. They're not even concerned.
Sorry.
They didn't talk about that. They're saying that we had agreed with you that we're going to keep a distance. That's exactly what we did when this government was voted.
Because it was an agreement.
We agreed that you're going to take care of our health. So we shared our power with you. We gave you the right to have power to take charge of our army, take charge of our police, take charge of our security and our treasury, because you said you're going to take care of us. And now you can actually sleep. And now you can actually see other people's lives being destroyed. Can you imagine, truly, can you imagine that if he was, and I'm saying this with all sense of respect, if Buhari never lived to be 5 years old and talk about him being over 70 today, would he have had the opportunity of becoming a president? So who told you that the person that was killed didn't also have the opportunity or the ideas to become something of value? Now, because we don't value, whatever you don't value, you don't enhance it. The governors in this country are still going to Abuja they're either flying or bulletproof cars because they value their lives. What bulletproof are you giving us? These security people that we're talking about, they are not aliens. We have pictures that have shown some of these governors dining with them. Some of these governors sitting with them. Some of these governors having the opportunity to talk with one of the bandits, the head of the bandits. They know these people by name. Where do you deliver these funds to? The phone numbers, the minister of ICT or whatever he calls himself, told us that we needed to submit our numbers because they're going to check it. The letters you saw sent to those had a phone number. You couldn't track that. Listen, we are joking. And I have said it, evil doesn't complete itself until it eats the evildoer. So if your hand is in it, you can be so rest assured that this whole cycle
will go around.
It will. That's why it's not right to put your hands in evil, because it will eat you up. It never completes its cycle without eating the evildoer. So why are we doing this to ourselves? The people who are saying that they must be giving funds, you talk to the president, he says, no, because we didn't give them a cattle route. Why are we wearing clothes? The people didn't wear clothes. Things have changed. The funds that are being raised today are not being raised in the regular government cycles. They are being, crowdfunding is happening. People are challenging their government and we're doing nothing about it. I think we are totally being unfair to ourselves, unfair to the society. But if you think you will keep allowing this evil to go, it's going to get to a point that you can't administer anywhere. There wouldn't be a country. And if there is no country, there wouldn't be an election. If there's no election, then everybody to your tent, O Israel.
Thank you so much, sir. I mean, we've had quite a lot. Just like I said, we had a lot on our dish, and this is how far we can go on the show. But remember, intelligence is not about the question you ask, but it's about asking the right question. Until we come your way again, same time, next week, Friday, all of us from ECWA TV, we wish you a blessed night rest. Happy weekend and goodbye.